Welcome back to the Food on Demand podcast, where we dish up insights on the future of food relating to off-premises operations and the overall digital dining experience. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor.
And I'm Hans Zimmerman, Food Service and Technology Reporter. Food on Demand is your exclusive source covering the ongoing transformation of how consumers discover, shop, order, and consume food in a digital age.
Well, we have a great interview today with Brittany Mercer, Director of Off-Premises Sales at Cowboy Chicken. But first, we'll get into our quick bites. So, Hans, what are you working on?
Well, I had the opportunity to dig into a really juicy report, which is totally my thing. And it's all about loyalty programs. It's from Incentivio. And it shows just how the different categories of food, whether that's Italian or breweries, how the loyalty programs resonate with customers across those categories. And some of the cool things that I saw were that Indian food is actually the most successful category with getting customers to actually, sign on and become members of the loyalty programs, which is pretty neat. And then the coffee brands, they're most effective in driving frequent guests to come back, which makes sense. If you're drinking coffee, then you're probably coming a few days of the week at least. And what about you? What are you working on this week?
Yeah, well, I wanted to highlight our summer series that Hans and I have kicked off this month. We'll be highlighting a different topic throughout the summer, and July's focus is beverages. So there's several articles out already on foodondemand.com and more to come on that topic. The first that I did that's out is Doghouse CEO Spills Beverage Innovation Strategy, where the CEO, Michael Montagano, discusses the brand's exclusive partnership with Keurig Dr. Pepper, but also how it's expanding into dirty sodas and coffee, and just the strategies behind, how you can upsell a menu. And I also dive into kind of that dirty soda craze. Hans has a great story out about the coffee industry. So be sure to check those out, and there will be more to come.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We have quite a few fun topics, so you have to stay tuned to see what's coming up next month and then even again in September.
All right, now it's time to get into our guest interview. Thank you.
We're lucky to be joined today by Brittany Mercer. She is the Director of Off-Premises Sales for Cowboy Chicken, a Dallas, Texas-based fast casual restaurant with about 20 locations spanning Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Georgia, and Florida. And in her role, she also focuses her attention on growing catering and off-premises sales for the virtual brand Smackbird. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very impressed that you've done your homework and that you mentioned our virtual brand Smackbird. So already a great start.
Well, we're excited to dive into all those in a bit here. Can you start off by telling us a bit about your background and into your current role and what you oversee at Cowboy Chicken?
I'm happy to. So I have actually worked with Cowboy Chicken for over 8.5 years now, almost 9 years, which good and bad when it comes to being with a company long term. I tell some people that and they are excited for me and impressed, and I tell others and they're like, I feel like they are chasing more of like a monetary goal. But my goal whenever I interviewed at Cowboy Chicken almost 9 years ago was to find a family. I wanted to solidify my career and have growth. And I met with the owner at that time, still the current owner, Sean Kennedy, and now our new VP of operations, which is Chuck Ziesness, also happens to be one of my very dear friends. And it was just immediately like the best work chemistry ever. And I knew they had what I was looking for, I had what they were looking for, and it's kind of been magic ever since. Up until recently, I have also been in a director of marketing role, and I've been over both departments. I've stepped away from marketing just because of the growth that we experience on the off-premise sales side. Catering is booming. Last month, even, we had our highest sales increase that over any month that we had last year, except for the holidays, which we do rotisserie turkey on our wood fire spit. So those months can get a little insane in the best way. But it's kind of what I wake up for in the morning. So it was an easy decision if it was going to be marketing or sales. And I really wake up to sell. So it's been a fun almost 9 years. I don't see myself going anywhere else. I'm actually even, I don't know if you can see my tattoo, it's kind of upside down here. I have a chicken tattoo, which is a very interesting story we may not have time for today, but may cause you to invite me back.
Well,
I
that's,
love
yeah,
it. I love it.
what a wonderful teaser there. But yeah, you mentioned your previous role, and you just now recently got the new role as the director of off-premises sales. So what about that position in off-premises sales specifically piqued your interest?
I never imagined that I would be a salesperson. It's just I remember a trying to sell a makeup brand whenever I worked in the healthcare industry to women that were in their late 30s, early 40s, and it always felt forced. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to work in healthcare again, and I'm definitely not going to try and sell a product again. For Cowboy Chicken, I think really just food in general, food sells itself as long as it tastes good, and as long as you can provide the service behind it and the consistency. I always say consistency builds trust, that trust builds loyalty. I've been able to build that out here at Cowboy Chicken. And so I don't see it so much as sales as just like providing a solution to these guests that just happens to like make their job easier, is exciting for me, and I have a fantastic team behind me, which I'm newer to leadership. I feel like I'm growing and learning every single day, and I've recently been put into a role where I'm not necessarily the one rolling up my sleeves, and getting in the trenches, which is one of my favorite things also to do. But now I'm supporting those that are getting in the trenches. And so it's a lot of fun. It's new, but really Cowboy Chicken just kind of sells itself. And so I found myself in a position where I'm supporting a great sales team that are providing a solution for a product that we love, they love it, breaking bread with people. Like there's nothing more that I could ask for, and really just having a lot of fun doing it.
And so let's talk about some of those strategies that, you're overseeing or implementing with the director of off-premises role. That's delivery, that's obviously catering, which is sales as well, and such a big part of what we're seeing right now in the off-prem landscape. Can you kind of tell us about what you're seeing at Cowboy Chicken in those buckets and some strategies behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. Post COVID has really changed the world. And I work for a brand that we're still cooking with wood, we like to say, right? Like we have a lot of old school values. Things like samplings used to be, all right, we're setting up a drop off for 10 people. We're sending our best person to present themselves. We're doing a full spread. We're getting everybody's email address. We're following up with them with phone calls. That was a pre-COVID sampling. Post-COVID sampling, when you're trying to build sales and build relationships with people, for us right now looks like an email to a new lead. They bite, so to speak, after we've touched them through emails multiple times because we're sending out sequences. That sampling may be set up with a delivery service provider, and we're just managing the relationship on the front end of, hey, this is what we're bringing, it's just being dropped for you, enjoy your lunch. And then we're following up with them after, and then really even capturing more of the relationship building after their first order, when we're doing a first order following up, a thank you, a journey of emails that are introductory of who we are as a brand. And so that has changed a lot. Also, when it comes to DSP, is a very old school way of thinking about a DSP. Is we provided our own in-house delivery for the longest time, up until the last 2.5 years. Now we're working with we're testing out a few, but our brand standards when it came to delivery was a specific uniform, a polo, specific types of delivery bags. Everything is delivered in hot delivery bags. The driver, we even actually had drivers that did side work before and after. So they were getting hourly pay on top of the delivery fees and on top of their gratuities. All of that has changed. We're working with DSPs now and sending out surveys where it's everybody is a subcontractor. There's really no controlled uniform policy, except for closed-toed shoes and business presentable. Sometimes we're getting DSPs that don't have hot bags. They have boxes in their cars. I mean, it's just a different landscape. And we fought that and are still kind of currently fighting that. But we're learning from survey feedback from guests that they don't really care so much about having a polo shirt on. They don't really care so much about the driver showing up with everything in delivery bags. What they care about is the food actually being hot and which can be done in boxes. They care about it being on time. They care about it being correct. And then they care about just a pleasant attitude from the driver. And so, the landscape is kind of transitioning when it comes to brand expectations, typical industry expectations. So our strategy right now is to look at what we've considered the basics for so long, make sure that one, we're implementing them. Simple things like just asking for a referral when we're doing our follow-up emails. It sounds like common sense whenever you say it, but are you doing it? Do you have the capability to do it? Are you even doing follow-ups? And then also reassessing and rethinking the things that have been basics for so long. What's important to us? What's actually important to the guests now? Is it important that we build the relationship on the front end, or is it more important that we give guests the ability to order online, super simple, get some sort of reward from doing it, get a follow-up email from us, which takes some work off of my team's plate, but then there are still that small percentage that want the relationship building. And so just really diving into what we're doing, covering the basics, and are the basics what we think that they are, and then providing a seat at the table for our catering guests and really getting down to the root of what's important to them now instead of making assumptions based off of the past.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting to think about, how the landscape has changed with third-party delivery. And some people even prefer to have the order left at the door, and it is really a trend we're seeing where convenience kind of keeps trumping. They want, if you're on the apps that everyone's already on, they more easily reorder online. So definitely interesting to think about the transition.
Yeah, and another example of that transition that's just, I guess, very clear is the virtual dining concepts, like we talked about with Smackbird. Because I mean, it would be kind of hard to imagine that as successful, maybe even a decade ago or so. But now, they're common, and that certainly had his ebbs and flows. So I'd love to hear maybe a little bit more about Smackbird from you, and maybe some misconceptions that you hear from other operators and consumers about those virtual concepts.
Yeah, virtual concepts are still a tough cookie to crack. I mean, in full transparency, I feel like because the landscape has changed so much, and we started Smackbird right after COVID. Of course, during November, which is our busiest month of the year because of holidays, and it was completely then different than what it is now as far as tech stack, maybe even as far as our guests. What we knew at the time is that we could have the same kitchen staff with a separate printer make food and have less overhead. And why not try something? Also, the heart of it, our owner was saying to us, like, we already make the best chicken on the planet. Why not make more chicken, but just in a different way? And so that's kind of what drove us to do that at the time. We found that it took us a while to come up with a definition of success because sales are drastically different. And then also your third party, which is where your virtual brands are living. It's a different relationship. In a storefront, we almost feel like it's a battle between we're using third party to leverage marketing and to leverage getting our food in people's mouths for the very first time, and then trying to win them over to the brand side with loyalty, with bag stuffers, and try to get them to be a first party guest. Whereas in a virtual brand, it's all third party, and you're spending more on marketing because there are limitations from these third party marketplaces because they know that you're a virtual brand. And so they know that you're not going to have the type of volume. They're not going to make as much money off of you. So you really have to leverage your parent company. And in doing that, there's such a learning curve. Do we, even when it comes to naming a virtual brand, we have built so much trust and loyalty through our consistency and our product and our service behind Cowboy Chicken. Do we leverage that and put that Cowboy Chicken name behind Smackbird, right? Or behind our virtual brand and come up with something that as brought to you by Cowboy Chicken? Or do we worry about cannibalizing chicken sales because now we have two chicken concepts? And do we make it seem that it's something separate? But whenever I go on DoorDash and I put chicken around one of my stores that have both, are we showing up in the top two? And so it's a lot of push and pull, and it gets even more intricate and granular when you look at it by region, because some regions we've seen a ton of success with hot chicken, and in some regions we haven't. Also, being a brand that as a storefront brand that's 70% off premise, which that's a Cowboy Chicken, a lot of those sales come from catering. Guess what? It's hard to sell. It's hard to sell hot chicken to a group of people because not everybody likes hot food. Or you make the assumption when you're maybe like an admin or a pharmaceutical rep, or you're ordering for an event that's a wedding, that most of the people there are going to struggle with something that's considered spicy, and Nashville hot chicken is spicy. And so we're even playing around right now on the back end of a menu that doesn't promote us as a catering Nashville hot chicken company. It's more of like a crispy chicken company with the ability to order hot food if you want.
Yeah. And that really leads into my question about menu innovation when you're building either virtual brands or your traditional menu. And as you mentioned, sometimes it is branding with the materials you already have to make a virtual brand work.
Yeah, it really, it could go one way or the other. We actually we're going to fully vet and test a separate Cowboy Chicken virtual brand concept called Cowboy Tenders and Bowls, and just getting it off the ground. We thought, hey, if we put Cowboy Chicken's name on it, naturally people are going to order from us. And where we tested it, it just wasn't the case. People were like, why would we order from this whenever we can order from the parent company? Now, though, for those of us that have tried a virtual brand, at the time, whenever we rolled out Smackbird and Cowboy Tenders and Bowls, like you have to have a menu that's 60% different from your parent company. And so, but guests don't realize that. And in some cases, they may not even realize that you're a virtual brand. And so you run into the issues of, if you have a region where guests want to come in and order, or they want to take it to go versus ordering off of delivery, how do you educate them on where you're at? How do you work with Google for the same address in two different brands? Like, it's a fight. There is a lot of bandwidth and there's a lot of mental space that a virtual brand takes up. And when you think about low overhead, you really have to consider that maybe the back of the house is just another ticket and we're producing the food. But when you're looking at a corporate team whose main focus is the parent brand, it starts getting a little murky when you add another brand in there, because it's a lot of work. It seems like it's going to be easier than it is, and it's really not. And so we constantly have to work on the Cowboy Chicken side to make sure that Smackbird isn't like the redheaded stepchild, which I feel like I can say as a redhead.
Well, and the ongoing kind of chicken craze wars that's happening right now. Chicken's
Yes.
everywhere. So, how do you stand out in a crowded market in general? So, yeah.
How do you stand out and still be profitable? I have 3 goals this year: automation, tracking the impact, and profitability. And again, that sometimes varies by region. When you have a new location, the top line sales is what you want, and awareness. But when you have a seasoned or legacy location, like, you're really counting every penny and you're looking at the bottom line. And we're discussing virtual brands right now. And I will say, because of that low overhead, a brand that brings in $25,000 extra dollars flowing straight to the bottom line can save a store, quite frankly. And so we see the value, we understand the value. It's just, I think that the virtual brand guest still is constantly changing right now. And you just have to be quick, and you have to stay on top of it, and you have to have the time to do it.
And how does the approach to optimizing the digital presence of a brand differ, if at all, for virtual brands versus that storefront restaurant?
It shouldn't differ. The only difference I would say that you should ensure on your end is that the tech stack cost is less. So if you're looking at opening a virtual brand and you're paying for a company like, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here. Let's see. If you're looking at a white glove URL, or an integrated tech stack, because you don't want to manually now enter third-party orders from a tablet into your POS, the cost of that tech stack fee cannot be the same as the cost of your parent company that's pulling in X amount of dollars, which is substantially more than your virtual brand. So other than that, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to time, Google SEO, social media, menu innovation, constantly running your cost of goods, marketing spend, again, which is going to be a little bit higher on your third party marketplaces because your volume isn't there. And quite frankly, the marketplaces know that. But everything else, you should be doing the same thing. I would say, even when it comes to things that aren't digital, like, direct mail.
Speaking about tech stack, you mentioned automation is one of your goals this year. Can you kind of tell me about that and maybe what you're eyeing in this space?
Yeah, for catering, this is one of my favorite companies to talk about right now. It's OmniRev. They're doing it, quite frankly, for us better than anybody else, was doing it. And it's so funny because it's really just a basic thing that we do for our regular four-wall guests, but for some reason we weren't doing it for catering guests before. Cowboy Chicken wasn't, and I really don't know a lot of companies that were doing it, but it's utilizing AI to follow up with your guests, to send out promotions, to follow up with lapsed guests, and to follow up with your churned guests. And that has been, my corporate team makes fun of me because I say game changer a lot. But that has been a complete game changer for us, utilizing AI to say, all right, last year in July, we had these large orders, and large orders for us are going to be, $1,000 plus at these almost 20 locations. Before, what we'd have to do is go in, manually pull the information, get the email, and then email the guest, and then enter that information into the CRM that we emailed the guest. And if they didn't answer, to follow up, or follow up in a week if they don't answer. I mean, there was just a lot of manual tasks that it took to follow up with one guest. And that's if you're doing your basics the right way, right? You're pulling the information, you're ahead of you really want to be ahead, you're pulling that information in May, right? And assigning tasks to your team. And then anticipating that you're going to get busy for the sales, and then you get busy in the sales, and then you can't get to the next month. And we don't have to think about doing that anymore. It is automatically done for us. Guests are automatically followed up with. AI not only says that they ordered this, and thank you for ordering this, but it personalizes it as far as not just names anymore, but thank you so much for ordering the chicken package with us last year for insert event name here. We'd love to take care of you again. Do you have any questions for us? And so what OmniRev and AI has allowed us to do is add a personal touch. And that's kind of like the fear behind AI, right? Like, you're going to take that human aspect out of it. No. And it's allowed for us to target that catering guest that we had this preconceived notion of a specific way, right? Like, that catering guest wants to talk to somebody, wants to see somebody, wants to build a relationship with them before they order. They want to try the food. They want all the bells and whistles. Now we have some catering guests that are kind of like that DoorDash guest that I order food on my phone, and when it's being dropped off, like, I look through the window, through the blind, until the driver drives off because I don't even want to see that driver, right? We have catering guests like that now. They want to be able to use a simple ordering interface. They want rewards. They want to see what they ordered. Like, they want a tech stack built around them for ease of ordering. That's what they care about. And so now those guests are being emailed and just ordering online, which frees up my team to do more of what they love, which is talk to the guests that actually want to talk to us and build relationships. So it's the thing that I'm most excited about right now. We're also using, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the fantastic, I would be surprised if you're not, the fantastic Kelly Grogan. But she owns a company called Crumbs. And so we are utilizing her right now for emailing new lead generation, which is something that's been a little elusive to us in the past year and a half. Like, we've been leaning more into current guests, and we will continue to do that. The 80-20 rule, it's a lot easier to also to get that guest to order with us, and it's less of a spend. But she's built out a really neat system that we are testing with her right now that is specifically going to be emailing new leads for us. So how do we penetrate a market without being there? How do I, working out of Fort Worth, Texas, build sales for Baton Rouge when it's not? I've already leaned into current guests that are ordering. What I need right now is for new guests to try our food. So excited about that test. Heard fantastic things about her, and honestly, just kind of in awe of her whenever she speaks anyway. So I'm excited to work with her.
Yeah, and of course, some additional very useful tools to understand and then deliver those personalized promotions to customers are the apps and the reward programs as well. And when I was looking online at the Cowboy Chicken, because we don't have a location up here in Minnesota just yet, I found myself really enjoying the tier titles for the Wild West Rewards program with Cowboy and Rancher and Cattle Baron. Do you find that there's tangible advantages to leaning so heavily into a theme like that? Or, would bronze, silver, and gold be just as effective? And I guess maybe I'd like to hear a little bit more of your thoughts on just the subtle tools to make those programs more effective and actually drive engagement.
Yeah, that's a really great question, right? That is a perfect example of, are we doing the basics, which is having a loyalty program? And then are we reassessing the basics that we put into place, which again, having a loyalty program, making it culturally attractive for Cowboy Chicken so it's specific. Is this an outdated idea? Do guests now care more about, okay, I want to be able to earn rewards. I want to know what the rewards are. I want to access them quickly. And I don't really want to give any of my extra time for the reward. And so I'm not sure if the answer to your question is yes or no. I think it may vary by brand and it may vary by region. But I would say ease of ordering and consistency is more important right now with what I'm seeing from guests than anything else. And then third would be offers and promotions, which before I would have said offers and promotions. Like, I'll take cruddy service at a restaurant that I don't love and spend less money. But now I know, this is personally, I know I'm going to spend more money. Everything is costing me more money right now. But if I'm going to spend more money, it better be right. And you better be delivering it to me with a smile. Right. And so I'm willing to pay a little bit more for that because I am anticipating paying more for that. So I think the most important thing to a guest right now is them understanding how to use it and what it is, and then being able to use it very simply whenever the time arrives. And then on our end, what we need to do to remind them is figure out what the best way to communicate with them. I have a lot of guests that don't want text messages, where I have more guests that do. And so asking how you would like to be contacted, I think, is a natural evolution in a program like ours. And then choosing to contact them in only that manner. So, and it's something that we've started with onboarding with our new loyalty platform, Patronics. I say new, we've had them for over 2 years, but a new loyalty program and platform is such an undertaking that I feel like even now we're still learning about the capabilities. And then once we do learn, they're advancing so much with being acquired by the Access Group. There's always more to learn and always more to do. So, but I would say if anybody's looking at advice with their loyalty program, don't be scared to utilize AI, because there's no way you can keep up with that many guests. And these companies have programs like a one-to-one win back where it's going to capture your lapsed guests, or they're going to be able to tag a guest that, hey, this guest comes every Monday for Kids Eat Free. They, obviously have some sort of family setup. We should probably include them on the family promotions that we're doing on Wednesdays now. So there's just no way to house all that information. And I would lean into AI, figure it out, test it, and see how it works, and not to be scared of it.
Yeah, well, fantastic advice all around, Brittany. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for everything we dove in today about your role, Cowboy Chicken, catering. We now go to our fun little segment at the end called Did You Leave Room for Dessert, where we just ask a few random questions to get to know you better.
Okay.
So kicking it off, if you weren't working in the restaurant industry, food industry, what career or where do you think you might be?
I went to college for social work, and at the time, it was too much. I'm just the kind of person, I'm an all-in kind of person, and I take things home. And I don't think that I was mentally strong enough to give what I needed to give. But I firmly believe that we should discuss mental health and physical health. I want to say, especially in the restaurant industry, because it's so demanding. And I've put a lot of time, and I'm an advocate for therapy, and I'm an advocate for utilizing any tool that you need and that's at hand, and that includes medication. And I'm much more healthier now than I was at the time that I was going to college. And I've always wanted to help people. And that's what I love about the restaurant industry. I see myself being able to help people. And it's kind of an immediate help because food immediately makes you happy. But probably I would go back into social work and
Yeah,
something with kids.
I was looking for an opportunity to bring up your work with the Texas Fallen Officer Foundation, and I guess that's a good way to fuse that in because yeah, I mean you're doing it in your volunteer time. I suppose if
I am.
maybe that's what you'd be doing otherwise.
I cannot believe the amount of homework you've done on this is amazing. Not everybody knows about that. Yeah, I am the board secretary for Texas Fallen Officer Foundation. I really have a heart for widowers. It's just that kind of, I was raised by my grandparents. I lost my grandmother young. I saw what that did to my grandfather. And I actually previously worked at a restaurant concept I'm sure you're familiar with called Slotsky's. And we did a lot of spirit nights, and I got to meet Dr. Demetric Kinney. And we did a spirit night for Dallas Fallen Officer Foundation. And I really think up until then, I had a kind of a torrid relationship with law enforcement. I was like, just an ignorant relationship, really. And I didn't live in this state. And so that made a difference. But when I moved to Texas and I saw the type of community that the police officers had here, I wanted to get involved. And I kind of fell in love with him and Officer Carrie Long, who she's fantastic. And she actually runs Texas Fallen Officer Foundation. And so I just saw it as a way to help people who had lost somebody. I don't have children. And so it just kind of fulfilled a need in my heart. So I love doing it. I love doing it. I could probably talk about it forever. And sometimes my worlds cross where we do turkeys for Texas Fallen Officer Foundation. So it's pretty cool. I'm very blessed.
And speaking of things that are close to your heart and that you enjoy doing, but in a very different way, whenever we met in Dallas for Food on Demand this year, it came up that you are a big fan of the Renaissance festivals. So whenever you're at a Ren Fest, what is your go-to item that you'd be seeking out for food, since they typically don't have rotisserie chicken, to my understanding?
I mean, oh my gosh. So I hadn't done that since I was a kid. And I went back to Oklahoma and it was my aunt's birthday. And I'm like, my aunt is like, she's a director of nursing, super smart, like amazing woman, but also the biggest nerd I know. Like she is a dungeon master. She does D&D. Every time we go, like her whole dining room is set up with a board. And even like one year for Christmas, I got her like, you do what I say because I'm the dungeon master, like on her coffee cup. She's so funny and so full of life and so creative. Does her own leather work. The picture that I showed you of us, or that I even posted on LinkedIn, like she made that leather armor. But I would have to say, I would have to stick with poultry and probably go turkey leg. Like I'm heavy into protein right now. And yeah, like a turkey leg and a bottle of water will get you really far. And if it was like an inanimate object, it would be an umbrella. I'm super fair skinned and it's a long time to be outside. But really some of like the most fantastic and creative people that you will ever meet, and just really open. And I miss getting out and being in large groups of people like that. And so I didn't realize it until I went, but yeah, you called me out on it.
Well, I've been to a few myself out in Minnesota, so Hans, you might have to check it out as well.
Oh yeah,
Take him.
They're fun. They're very fun.
I haven't got the turkey leg before, so that'll be next.
It's huge. It's awesome.
I'm hungry.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brittany. We're at our time, so we really appreciate you coming on the podcast and learning more about you and sharing your advice. So thank you so much.
My honor. And I really appreciate you guys again for thinking of me. And this was a lot of fun. And so if there's anything else that I can do or be a part of, I'm happy to. I appreciate you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that interview just as much as we did. We look forward to joining you again for the next Food on Demand podcast in a couple of weeks.